All right, guys, welcome to the video. A huge update just dropped. Essentially, most people are going to be waking up to this if you're in the US time zone. So we know that there's going to be a new Cav combo commander. It's been confirmed. It's King Arthur. Very, very exciting. We'll cover that. We know a little bit more about armaments, the armament swap. So we'll talk about some like basic strategies until we get more info. And then finally, we know a little bit more about the Mayan civilization. All right. So first, probably the most exciting part is the new Cav commander. It's going to be King Arthur, right? I think as a community, right, probably the most hype we could get for a commander would probably be Sun Tzu Prime. It's just at this point, it's almost a meme. But if you look at that next tier down, like King Arthur is one of the most well-known historical figures. That sword is badass with like a ruby on it. And then we actually see a new tree, the combo tree. Now, if this works the way we assume it's going to work, right? Right now we have one commander that does combo attack. It's actually Luce, right? So his expertise, essentially every turn you have a 25% chance of proccing an extra basic attack, which is extremely powerful. Right now you have an actual tree that's dedicated to enhancing that. It also makes it a little interesting because if you look at every one of these top Cav commanders right now, on the surface, it doesn't seem like they would pair really well with King Arthur, right? Probably the most logical one would be Attila, and then the next best, or maybe even better option might be Philip, who was just released like 2 weeks ago. So until we actually see his kit, we won't know. It looks really, really cool. Not sure how he's going to pair with any of the current Cav commanders. Attila looks like probably the logical choice, right? Depending on his kit. And then Philip will actually be the two. And then what are you going to do? Are you going to bench like two Cav commanders? How are you going to make it work? It will actually be really interesting as we get more information on that. Also, this commander is going to be coming out in January. I'll go over that a little bit later. It's going to be really, really quick, which makes me think that they're going to purposely make the commander swap uh, coincide with the release of this commander so that the community won't complain too much about commanders being released like essentially like rapid fire one after another. All right. The next one, let's talk about the Mayan civilization bonuses. It's finally revealed, so it's no surprise, right? We knew this was going to be a civilization that actually benefited siege. So all types of normal damage plus 3%, right? When it says all types, that could be regular normal damage, but also range normal damage, which is like the only kind of normal damage increase that would benefit a siege. You're not going to pick this commander or the civilization for anything else, in my opinion. Like archer defense is, not good enough for you to pick, and obviously, you're not going to just pick it for the gold gathering speed. So this is a siege main civilization. We also get two new commanders. I assume the top one, the gathering commander, will be epic. Right now we have 10 gathering commanders essentially, so this will be the 11th one. So I guess in KVK, when you want to send out gatherers and then gather a little faster, now you can do 6 marches, right? And then I'm not going to try to pronounce the name. And then the new archer commander will probably be Gold Key, right? So when the Egypt civilization came out, Thutmose came out with him. He was okay, especially for the early game, but you're not necessarily going to go out of your way to invest in him. Maybe this commander, though, you actually will invest in because now, essentially towards the end of Season 2, you get to do a commander swap, right? So at this point in time right now, if you were going to ask me, I would say it's YSG and Alex, but it might be YSG and this guy, or right, like just another option where you could potentially invest into this commander. Now that's assuming you could swap them out. Let's say he's gold key, and then with the commander swap you could do it. We just don't know the details yet until they release them. But I highly doubt he's going to be part of the 2 best marches. Probably more like Thutmose level, if I had to take a guess. And obviously the special unit is going to be Archer. Looks really cool. You're not going to pick a civilization for the special unit type, though, so we're not going to cover this too much. All right, so the commander swap, there's nothing on here that we didn't know before, but there is one thing that I think I either misread it before or we're finally getting details on this, and it's at the bottom. So under the rules, right, it says select 2 commanders. Before, the way they announced it, I always thought that the commander swap you could do 1 commander, right? If you're essentially past Season 2 and everyone just gets a one-time thing, and then in the future for all the new players they get to do 2 commanders. But the way this is written now, I almost think everyone's going to be able to swap two commanders, which will be really cool. But also, it'll change what I think they're going to do as far as the stipulations for what you can swap, right? So my account, I started in July of 2022. Right now, it's the end of December 2024. So essentially, I've been playing for 2.5 years. If you're not counting gold key commanders, I essentially have two commanders maxed that aren't gold key commanders that aren't in the meta. It's actually going to be Guan and Boudica, right? So at 2.5 years, I only have two commanders to swap. If you don't allow gold key commanders, there's just a lot of players that from once they get into season 3 till 2.5 years, maybe even longer, where if you can swap two commanders and you don't allow us to swap gold key commanders, like it'll just kind of go to waste because like where else are we gonna do the swap, right? So I don't know. I'm a little bit more open to the idea now that maybe they'll allow us to swap gold key commanders. Before I thought, yeah, they'll probably allow us to swap gold key commanders, but then they'll only actually count the universal gold heads that we swapped in there. Now I'm not so sure, right? But regardless, I think the timing of this, it's going to be out in January, and you can see in the next page, King Arthur is actually going to come out an event from January 10th to January 23rd. Right, so what they're probably going to allow you to do is to swap for King Arthur, and because he doesn't pair well with anyone, like it might be one of those where they're essentially encouraging you, if you want King Arthur, to swap for Philip or maybe even Attila. I had to take a guess, right? We still don't know the details. This is with a few exceptions. We don't know what the exceptions are. It's very annoying, but looks like you're actually going to be able to swap two commanders, at least as far as Lilith's latest announcement. Right, the next one is the Armament Conversion. So this one essentially, you can see on the screen here, right? If you want to swap from Arch to Hollow Square, the special and the rare inscription will just switch over to the one relevant to the armament you're switching to. The stats will stay the same. Now we know they're going to have a new currency. It's called a Conversion Stone. And then because it says use Conversion Stone items to convert legendary quality armaments, I think there might be like a number of stones, right? And then depending on the type of armament, maybe it's a double, maybe it's a rare, maybe it's a special, it's going to cost more or less stones, conversion stones. So I had to take a guess. I don't think it'll just be one, and then you could swap a triple stat, no inscription one, and then a special inscription one. It'll cost the same. It'll probably cost different based on the way this is worded. And then if you haven't figured it out by now, the strategy for this, because you have a pity system for special, you just want to pull for one that's more universal, right? So about 4 months ago, before we knew they're going to do the armament swap, I was recommending people pull for Arch because that actually applied to the most troop type now, right? Because if you have Luce, he's not going to benefit from Wedge, right? If you have a combo attack, Cav Commander, he is not going to benefit from Wedge. If you have like true damage, like Shajar, not going to benefit from Wedge. But now with the ability to switch over, unless the cost for this is astronomically high, which I don't think it's going to be, I think the strategy for most people should still be just to pull for Wedge for everything instead of Arch. And then you could either switch to Delta for the combo attack, either switch for Arch for the smite damage, but you still want to just keep pulling Wedge for now. It's a little clunky. I don't really like the way it is, but if you had to pick a strategy to maximize essentially not wasting armaments, I would actually go back to pulling for Wedge now, and then use the conversion stones to switch. All right, so for example, if you get like a really good Wedge that's like triple siege stats, before we would just like make a meme out of it, complain, or recycle it. Right now you would actually want to keep it, especially if it has an inscription on it, because then you could essentially switch it over to V formation and then make it relevant. So there's some inscriptions like line shot, I think like ballistic, that you could get for a Wedge that kind of suck, but when it's for a V formation, it's very, very good. You're doing like 3% more like all damage, or when you're in V formation, or like I think like ballistic, you do like 5% more normal damage, or something crazy like that, right? So you definitely want to save those. So any high triple stat you want to save, even if it's on a slot where it's like an instrument or a emblem where you essentially you can't really inscribe over it with anything good right now. I think the way we're heading in the future, you'll probably actually be able to get special inscriptions, like just actual inscriptions for every slot, and then you'll eventually be able to inscribe over it. So right now, if you get any good triple stat, even if it's not the relevant stat, even if it's in a slot where you can't inscribe a special inscription on it right now, keep it, because we're probably going to get to a point where you can't inscribe over it. All right, and then finally, the big thing here's the event to unlock King Arthur, but I want you guys to notice the timeline, right? So Philip came out about January 15th, December 15th, December 16th. We're gonna get a new combo attack Cav Commander, like that Cav Commander that actually comes out in the Wheel of Fortune, essentially like a month later, less than a month later. This is by far the fastest time we've had between two like legit commander releases. And the only way they can make this work, in my opinion, is if the commander swap comes out in time with this. So it's not like, because you're just not going to get enough gold heads in a month to max a commander, right? So if you max Philip and you don't have enough to max this, I think they're counting on the commander swap, essentially taking away some of the pressure of just accumulating a bunch of gold heads. This one, you can kind of see what the skills look like. There's literally no information released, right? But you get to test out an expertise King Arthur for free. The last time we had something like this was Ragnar Prime, right? Essentially where you get to unlock them, you can use them for a bit and decide whether you like them or not. So that's actually going to come out in like 10 days, which is pretty crazy, right? But oh, actually, there's one more. This last one not really relevant to any player besides like the early game. If you haven't unlocked all the epic commanders, there's going to be some event where you can at least unlock all of them. It doesn't really change too much, but you know, I guess it's a positive, right? But regardless, really, really big update. We still want to wait for more information, right? We want to know King Arthur's kit. We want to know more information on the commander swap, the armament swap, like, you know, like how many conversion stones can you get for the armament swap? Is it a KVK thing? Is it something where you can buy bundles? We just don't know. Right? But if you have watched all the way to the end, you haven't yet, please like and subscribe. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll talk to you guys next time.